And Tommy, you are on the air.
Yeah, the American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people like me, mostly. Featuring today, here we are again with David Van, creator of Sooner Politics. And he just recently ran for state vice chair of the GOP. Also joining us every week, David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com, educational speaker, and of course, the former state of Oklahoma elector of the United States Electoral College, and me, your verbal Viking, Tommy McKay, comedian, political humorist, father of five, former mayoral candidate, and here we are again. 3D Politics every Monday night. We got a full show because we got full of opinion around here. We're going to talk a little bit about COVID infections low enough to let Tulsa mask mandate expire. We've got a GOP update from David Van. And we're going to talk about red flag laws, etc., and how amendments can just come and go, especially like the 17th Amendment, which we stand against firmly each week here at 3D Politics, the one area I found all contrarians can agree on. Gentlemen, humanize yourself. What have you been doing besides work? And Oldham, you're not allowed to say, I just, we had a great show last week, but Oldham, and Van, you start because you're almost closer to human than anybody here.
Well, I threw my hat in the ring for the first time, really ever. I mean, where I had a competitive race. And so, Tom, you've done that. Now it's Oldham's turn. You're next, Oldham.
Oh, I don't have a shot at this point.
Well, no.
Although we did have a lot of fun at the OKGOP. State convention. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But Constitutional Grounds had a vendor booth, and if more people had known about the vendor booths, we would have had even a greater time. But we got lots of people signing up, lots of people on board, so it was a lot of fun. So Lori and I had a blast and gave away a book and a bunch of constitutions. So.
Excellent. I worked all weekend on a script for a feature-length film I'm working on entitled "I Transgender Robot." It's a concept where a female entity software has been implanted into a male hardware, and it's a transgender. It's incredible. It's a great script. We've got the title so far and nearly a page. Man, what?
Let me start this out with a little bit of trivia. Go to widescreen. Take a look at this flag.
What happened?
All right, trivia. Oldham,
still
keep your mouth shut. I want our viewers in the comments. What is the official name of this historic flag? All right. We'll see. We'll look at the end of the show, see how many you got it right.
All right. So to humanize himself, Van has come up with a trivia contest.
That's right. There you go.
He ends up with these great flags.
It's amazing. I don't know how he does it. I don't
or at
know.
least he has one.
Well, I got this one,
That's pretty good. I know Van is filled with 1,000 stories a minute.
There we go.
So, okay. So now real quickly, and I want to kind of get, you know how I feel about GT Bynum and the COVID thing, but I want to read a couple of comments, not only from Bynum, but from these stories. So from KTUL TV, from Talk Radio 1170, and from News on 6. And so here's Corey Smith, KTUL TV. The headline says COVID infections low enough to let Tulsa mask mandate expire at the end of April, mayor says.
Oh, goody.
It's amazing how I did not vote on a Dr. Dart or a COVID infection to let me do anything. I thought GT Bynum was going to let me, but no. And so Bynum said the mandate's scheduled to expire April 30th. Now, I want to point out, this is KTUL. Bynum said the mandate's scheduled to expire April 30th. But over here with the talk radio, he says that he states it a different way. I'll point that out here in a minute. But anyway, he said the mandate was always intended to stave off an uncontrollable surge of COVID hospitalizations. Okay. Now, and then he follows it up. That concern has dramatically subsided. I'm going to point out here that correlation cannot equal causation, simply because the concern has dramatically. So the first point I want to make is that if we are trusting in government to handle these things that are bigger than the private sector can handle, Bynum said the mandate to restrict your freedom was intended to stave off the uncontrollable surge of COVID hospitalizations, which means government cannot handle. That's an admission that government cannot handle the things that they say we're paying for. We say, oh, pay because government will handle if there's a huge pandemic. What will they do? They'll restrict your ability to be free or use the hospital. You'll pay for the hospital, but then they'll say, oh, no, we're restricting that to make sure we save lives. And they will decide which lives are, what did they call them? They called them what? Existential. No, they were essential is what they were called. He also, Bynum, yes, sir, somebody.
I just want to call a state of emergency and get everybody down to the City of Faith Tower and press really hard against it, because the intention is to stave off a collapse of the City of Faith. And if we all just push really hard, it might not fall down.
Well, the sky is falling, so just put your hands up. Put your hands up.
As though his remedy is actually responsible for the great outcome, you know.
So the bigger issue here for Bynum is that he's creating his own sense of false security.
Yeah.
He also said they haven't seen a spike in infections linked to spring break, making them feel more assured about easing restrictions, but you know what? If I said COVID gets better in the morning, then when the sun came out, I'd say, look, COVID's getting better. There's literally no correlation between, you know why they didn't find infections linked to spring break? Because there's no correlation. There's literally there's no causation or correlation.
Oh, no, we do know that the bars get infected after 11 p.m.
Oh, that's
panic, you know.
Not before.
So because and those damn virus parents need to get a hold of their virus children for letting them hang out that late. There's got to be a curfew on the immune children.
And that's only before 11, and if you're hanging out in the lobby, in the foyer of the restaurant. Because if you're seated, everything's fine because it's, you know.
And eating, if you're eating, COVID runs from food. If you're eating, COVID runs from food.
Or if you're protesting for Black Lives Matter, then you can't get it.
All right. So this KTUL story covers the best part of it, and then we'll touch the other ones to show the difference. Bynum said those measures will likely stay in effect until herd immunity is achieved, treating us, of course, like cattle. Bynum. And so Bynum said the mask order was put in place at the request of local healthcare systems and public health officials, which I didn't vote for any of those. I didn't vote for any of those people. So for future reference, if this is the way we're going to do it, if Dr. Dart or the next guy who's got a speech impediment is in charge of what we do, then we have to vote on that. Dr. Dart doesn't get to be appointed anymore. The Dr. Dart of the future, who's going to take care of COVID mutant virus, is going to have to be elected by the people, because clearly Mayor Bynum bends over for the health department. Oldham, yes.
Here, though, Tom.
Please, because
remember, not even the elected officials have the authority or the right to vote on this and tell us what to do. They don't get that authority. It does not matter. Remember, divine right of election does not exist in America. The law. So,
God, yeah, just like 90%, even our audience is like, what? That's like algebra. Oh my gosh. So again, with the fear porn, we remain in a pandemic. It's crucial that everybody wants to get a vaccine, do so. But, you know, and then he says, we got to be smart and follow CDC guidelines, which he has not followed consistently CDC guidelines. Now he's in it. But earlier when they said get kids back in school, he didn't. And so he's up and down on that one. Gentlemen, I got a little more on this. So go on. What do you got?
No, I'm thinking of Rand Paul, who just got done chewing out Fauci said you've already had the vaccine, and here you still run around wearing 2 masks. You know,
Right.
he said, what a hypocrite, what a virtue signaler.
Right.
Now, I got to call out Rand Paul, because right before the November election, he was out in Phoenix, Arizona with Trump, and he comes up, does the fist pump with Trump, and he's wearing a mask, and he says, here's to immunity. Well, Rand Paul, why are you wearing a mask?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
God.
Rand,
You know,
Rand
so, I
is
mean, he's
influenced
being
hypocritical
hypocritical.
at times, and
Yeah.
that's a big problem. Now, as far as I know, Rand Paul was just here in Tulsa last week.
Yes.
Or the
With
week
Nathan
before.
Dahm, fundraiser
And
for Nathan Dahm.
I don't believe he was wearing a mask at all. But
Yeah.
you know, I mean, but that's the problem. I mean, even our congressman here in the 1st district will at times wear a mask, and he'll wear a mask in Congress.
Well, it's about the freedom to wear the mask or not. The bigger problem doesn't rise from the higher levels. It's more around us, these Peggy's from the Tulsa Opinion editorial page. But here's one, a guy, this is from Talk Radio 1170, headline, Some business owners cautiously optimistic as Tulsa mask mandate expected to expire, deep in the story. But not everyone thinks lifting the mandate is a good idea. Quote, I'm just afraid we'll see an increase again, says Jerry Jackson. Tulsa resident Jerry Jackson believes April 30th is a little too soon. We've been doing it for a long time, he says. I like the thought about hanging on a little longer. I know it's a hassle, Jackson says. Well, hassle for who? Mayor Biden, that's, I mean, what the hell? This is the problem. We've got these sheep running around like little local fiefdom dictatorial mask mandatators. And I made that up. Mandatators. Mayor Bynum said it's important that all restaurant and bar employees wear masks until we reach, again, herd immunity.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
you know, if I could say, Oldham, you remember the night you were at the Broken Arrow City Council? Lori was channeling her inner Nazis, right? You know, and I remember
her inner
exactly.
Okay.
Inner memory. It was her inner memory, a recall of the Holocaust.
You're right. But here's the point.
Whatever.
Sheesh,
one of the TV stations just interviewed a few select people, and one lady, I'll call her Sally, I forget the name.
I'll tell you what I'll call her. Go ahead.
She says, all I know is I feel a lot safer wearing a mask. And feeling is what's important.
So, but why do they deny my feeling of safer when I don't wear the mask? I mean, I feel safer the other way. It's like working with children. My children say, it's no big deal if I clean my room. I say, well, then if it's no big deal, do what I say. What the hell? If it's no big deal, obey me.
Yeah, okay. I feel safer driving the turnpike at 90 miles an hour, but that doesn't work.
Well, okay, so here we go. There's no reason that Mayor G.T. Bynum should go around antibody shaming. Just because you have the vaccine or don't have the vaccine, he's literally shaming you. It's antibody shaming is what it is. We're not going to make fun of people for being fat, right? But we're going to make fun of antibody or not antibody.
Well, remember that they are setting up a false religion. It's a religion.
That's right.
And it's a belief system, and they are shaming if you're not a part of the belief system.
That's correct.
Are you a feelings denier, Oldham? Feelings denier?
Yeah, actually I am. But
you heard that all.
I'll tell you all about that.
I never felt like you were like that. You guys are listening to David Oldham, David Van, right here with the founder of Constitutional Grounds and the creator of Sooner Politics, respectively. And I am your Verbal Viking. Find me at verbalviking.com. Tommy McKay, your fine host every week for more than 2 years now at 3D Politics Live. Catch us every week right here on Mondays, 3D Politics Live. Well, I'm about to wind up this issue here, but to move on quickly to the Channel 6 coverage. Bynum here, the health department's recommendation is, and Bynum said if, keyword if Bynum said if the ordinance expires. This shows you that the man has no idea that he's running it. He calls Dr. Dart and he suffers the speech impediment and then decides he's going to do what Dr. Dart said. Why doesn't he just step down and put Dr. Dart in charge? It's literally required. He said, if it, he at least pretend you're a man and say, when I decide Dr. Dart's going to get off my back and I'm going to do what I want, and then my wife will let me. And so if the ordinance expires, again, he wants to go until herd immunity is reached. Gentlemen, do you know how, and I'm asking as a question, not as an expert, what's the quickest way to herd immunity? Wearing a mask?
Well,
staying at home?
Without a mask and actually be exposed is the quickest way to supposed herd immunity.
Right.
And remember, it's all theoretical. None of this is actually proven. It's all theory, which means it's a belief system.
While having your immune system at optimal peak performance as well, and if you need the boost of some zinc or some of the other things that really help, be ready for it. But look, Tom, when I was a kid, when it was the optimal time to get chicken pox, they just stuck you in and go play with the kid with chicken pox. That's how we did it.
To quickly reach herd immunity. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So everything we've done that GT Bynum suggested, it works against the idea of getting to herd immunity.
Correct.
But here he claims, all we're trying to do is get to herd immunity. This is literally ridiculous. Two more things, and then we're out of it. But I mean, how many weeks can we ever get together? We hardly ever see each other every Monday. Correlation shows no causation. Here he says from his tweeter routine, phase 1, phase 2, and 3, and 4. Phase 1, on that day, 405 people. Phase 2, and he's talking about hospitalization. The point I'm trying to make is because it doesn't matter what the number is. He's picking numbers to show a trend of numbers that somehow are supposed to correlate to some causation that has zero effect because they don't account for placebo effect or control group. None of this crap is based in any science whatsoever. It's all religion, like Oldham says, okay? But here he goes from the mayor himself. Phase 1, 400 people were. Phase 2, 453 people were. Phase 3, 70 people were. Phase 4, 34 people were. See, it's working. See how much whiter my whites are than your whites, you dumb bastards. We remain in a pandemic, they say, because what is it? It's fear porn. Nothing but fear porn. All right, I'm done with it, but this is ridiculous crap. The mayor is defaulting to a man who is unelected to tell us when I've got to put a face diaper on. It's nothing but fear porn, all right? It's absolute ridiculousness. Okay, anybody else before we move on?
Just break we got the contest going on. Who can figure out which this flag is?
Where
is
did
the historic
where are they
US
supposed
flag.
to answer? Where did you tell them to answer?
In our live feed in the comments. So
all right. Oh, hey, this time
live.
I'm watching chat. I just found out a week ago you guys were chatting, and I had no idea until I'm like, what's this?
Yeah.
What's this text going on there?
Now, because they can't see all of it, it is these are flags. Now I got it tilted on its end, pointing flag pointing down, but it's 5 red bars are stripes and 4 white stripes. So that ought to give you some clue. All right, I will give you a few more clues as the show goes on, and then at the end we'll talk about what it is and the history of this flag. All right,
that's excellent.
Good.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so that's the big question, and hundreds of answers are coming in, but nobody's got them so far.
All right.
Okay, so this comes from Sooner Politics, April 11th this year. Bennett, John Bennett becomes OKGOP chair. In one of the largest and most unusual GOP conventions, the Oklahoma Republicans selected John Bennett as the new state chairman on the first ballot. What do you know about that? Career Marine received a 56% majority on the first ballot. Yep. Despite the threat, remember there were lady thugs out to get him, and there were like 4 lady thugs surrounded him at some point. And
what was this?
Yeah, the lady thugs. Oh boy! But Bennett, having been a veteran, he was like, "You ladies, get away!" he clicked his heels 3 times, and poof, there he was. Vying for favor of over 1,200 delegates.
This was reported by the one guy of this on the show that wasn't there.
Where are you reading that from? I haven't seen that.
Is that from the Sooner Politics report?
Could have potentially added a few spin lines there.
That doesn't sound like the report I made. I did a Sunday morning report.
You said that the Marine Sooner Politics reported that
I didn't say lady thugs.
I added the lady thugs at the part.
Thank you. Yeah. It's you. And that is Tom at 3D Politics.
No, that's Verbal Viking.
That's the comedian, the Verbal Viking.
Look, the thing is, it was threatened by a comment that someone threatened lady thugs. Did you know that? Anyway.
Oh, okay.
It's a true thing. I did not make up the word lady thugs.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. Tell us what happened.
Huh?
Yeah, it's a true thing. And hey, let me say this to the lady thugs. They know who they are. That's even scarier.
And now, you lady thugs, if I were you, I'd keep your mouth shut, because he who squawks identifies himself.
Hey, first rule of lady thug is you never talk about being one.
That's right.
It's quite easy. All right, enough about the lady.
That's why redneck jokes are not seen as distasteful, because nobody claims to be a redneck.
Here's the thing, man.
Only those laughing.
There was a fear on some writers' editorial positions that having so many, like you said in your thing, despite a 4-candidate crowd.
Right.
And the theory was that these 4 candidates, the 3 other ones being not Bennett, is that that it could be split. Okay.
Most people thought it would take 2 rounds to select someone. Don't you think so, Oldham? I did.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not. But I was the only guy that wasn't there.
Right.
I mean, literally, I'm not plugged in. But
and I'll say, I just was going through some of my mail, and Christine Leviathan, she actually sent out a mailer as well. She got a total of 41 votes out of the 1,200.
Well, you know what was really interesting is all 4 candidates did a fabulous job of running a campaign. I mean, I thought they all did a great job. I obviously I had my own personal opinions and so forth, but the thing is, in general, the candidates themselves had a good, clean campaign.
I'd say 99% until the actual nominating speeches. Christine had somebody nominated that just ripped into all 3 of the other ones.
Right. Yeah, she did.
That was the only one where I thought it was the candidate themselves going after the others. But you're right. Other than that, the candidates themselves behaved themselves.
I just really enjoyed our interview with Christine Leviathan. I just loved her sincerity, her genuine passion, and I do feel like I understand people who go, Van. I mean, trust me, when you get into you don't run in Van.
Trust me.
When you don't run, you don't run because you think you're going to make a lot of money, I'm rich and famous. You're like, oh my God, somebody's got to be the adult in the room. And so that's, I feel like, where Christine Leviathan is coming from. She's like, somebody's got to do the right thing around here, and I love that. Now, the reason I identify with her is, okay, she has a great idea, sincere passion, etc., and less of a chance to win than a guy like Bennett, which is what I was in for. I was up against two millionaires. I had a great idea. They had zero idea. What they had was status quo, and we swear we're going to fix the lights. But
you also got 2% of the vote.
That's about right. So, and she's a lot cuter than I am. So here's the thing. What I'm getting at is, does the GOP in this situation that happened Saturday, and I wasn't there, do they have a system of working the primary in? This is what I said last week, was the primary is to allow the people who don't have the name recognition to win to get the new ideas inserted into the dialogue, so that the people that can win are forced to talk about it. When I'm iced out of the discussion by Pat Campbell, I'm not allowed to get my idea out there. And the reason I was iced out was because, well, Tom doesn't have a chance to win. Well, who the hell thinks I've got a chance to win? Yeah. I've got a great idea for the community of Tulsa, and I get totally iced out. So can Christine Laverifon ever get her ideas in a primary sense in the discussion before you guys take a vote at the GOP state level?
Yeah. Well, part of it is demonstrating political leadership, and they all had demonstrated some. Christine, the least. I mean, she was Rogers County one term. Right. You know, and all of us brought something to the table, you know, so, but and it is important. It is important to see the track record, the history and stuff, but there's some great people that maybe don't have, but, you know, you get this gut feeling that I think they can do it, you know?
Well, let's also understand that this is a party election, and this is the party. So what you have as a party is a volunteer opportunity. So the way you get yourself heard is you volunteer and you get active, and you be active around the people that are helping to push the ideas, and you help push the ideas that you greatly support, and you try to actually have the discussion so that we can dispel the bad ones. And that's what we do as party, you know, people in the party. There's all sorts of, I had a great conversation with the gal with one of the Republican women's groups at another vendor table. And she was like, have you seen the party platform? It's horrific. It's so unconstitutional. And this lady really does know her constitution. And
magic words.
She wants to really have the platform become more constitutional. And my suggestion is, then let's start having those conversations in the convening 2 years, because we have 2 years before it comes up again. Let's get it constitutional, because I'm right there with you. And that's how you'll get it done, whether you're in party office or not.
I didn't, you know, I yammer, but sometimes I don't. My question is, at this function that occurred inside the party, and I love that you've clarified that, Oldham, and also, Oldham, you're clarifying that it's an opportunity to serve, and that's critically important for this particular event, and public school teachers as well, because that's the same thing. It's your opportunity to serve, ladies. Serve away, because you're not in a free market, but. You're listening to your verbal Viking right here, Tommy McKay, 3D Politics, every Monday with David Oldham and David Van on 3D Politics Live. And my question has to do with, during the politics of what happens on a Saturday when you guys go vote, is there a primary where the underlings, like Laverifon, where she's clearly doesn't have the power of Bennett to win in a 56% margin? Is there a primary issue that they talk about?
Yeah, your first race, you run, you expect to lose, but that's how you start getting noticed.
So they don't discuss, there's no primary situation where they meet and discuss.
Everything happens in one day. There's one vote. If there's somebody who gets a 50% plus one vote
But
majority, then they're in.
Hey,
and that's it. For
let's
voting.
take away the video and break for station identification.
all right.
You're listening to 3D Politics, blah, 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 blah. That's a true story.
And trust me.
The American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. Tommy McKay, your fine host, right here every week on 3D Politics, and, of course, featuring David Van, creator of SoonerPolitics.org. We are just getting ready to enjoy the expertise of David Oldham, founder and scholar, constitutionalgrounds.com, because we're going to dive into that Biden. Oh, that Biden thing. He is red flagging everybody nationally. But let's finish off first. The story from Sooner Politics, Bennett becomes OKGOP chair. What else from that story, Van?
Well, I happen to have the best experience. The race I was in, my opponent was just a totally upstanding young man. Fantastic. I got to know him. He and I've really become, even closer friends.
And who was
he
your opponent?
honorable. His name is Shane Jemison, and Shane has been very involved. I mean, right out of high school, through his college years in everything.
Wow.
And doing fantastic. And I tell you what, half of the mamas there wishes he was their son. I mean, the old ladies vote for him like you wouldn't believe. And I come up, put my arm around him, and Carolyn McClarty, our very, very respected national committee woman, a former, she looked at it, she says, "Oh, that's so sweet to see you two hugging." So I put my head on his shoulder just for added impact. And it was great. At the end of the deal, I came give him a hug, and he said, set me up a meeting with Bennett, and so I'm like, sure, because like I first said here on this show, 2-3 months ago, I'm in this to make sure John's back is covered. And if that means setting up Shane Jemison to be as closely connected, building the trust, getting in sync, so those two, know what each other's doing, then I've accomplished what I need to do. And this is great.
All right.
So that's really good. Fact is, I'd like to have him here on this show sometime. We'll need to talk about that in the future.
Jemison?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's invited. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, oh,
Shane
yes,
Jemison. And here's the thing. We would talk, and he would point out to me what he thought was my weakest, vulnerabilities. And I point out what I thought was his. And then we would, compare notes, say, hey, I'm hearing this. I mean, just the two of us privately. What is this? Tell me what this is. And in most cases, we're able to say, oh, no, that was nothing. And then some things, Tom, I'm like you. I said, you know what? I defaulted on one of my student loans for a short time.
Whoa. Defaulted on a student loan.
I got behind on a student loan.
Are you suggesting that I did?
No.
Hold it. You said like me, and then you said defaulted on a student loan. Let's clear that up real fast.
Right.
What do you mean I defaulted?
Like you pointed out a couple months ago when you said, really, Al, we're digging on this like this this is a college kid, right?
No.
So I'm kind of like you. I was like, that's not an issue. That's where I'm like you, Tom. I agree. That shouldn't be an issue.
No, that was a
big jump there from.
That was a hell of a spin, man. Oh, hell yeah. I like the way you did that.
Listen.
No, I don't believe I've ever defaulted on a student loan.
No, I'm not saying
I'll have to ask my wife.
Okay, well, let me finish a statement.
Because she runs all the money. Well, you damned me with that like you. Don't ever say like you, Tom. That'll ruin your whole routine.
Like you,
All right.
I agree this shouldn't be an issue because, yeah, I said it out of order. I'm sorry.
It's just
because
ridiculous. Yes.
even though it was 40 years ago for me, I'm no better. Okay? Jemison's still a young man. I used to be a young man. I feel young, but you know.
Well,
anyway,
this is
some
basic.
years.
This is basic equivocation, and I understand what you're saying, and it's valid to a certain degree.
It is.
The problem isn't the equivocation; it's pertinence. Does it matter?
Yeah, kind of both, though. You know, those
Oldham,
live in
okay,
glass houses.
Oldham's got something to say. Do it.
Oh, well, I agree with David. We shouldn't be going and digging up old dirt that's old dirt and somebody's grown beyond.
Right.
And the biggest disappointment from the convention was the dirt being slung by people who for whatever reason felt some vested interest in their candidate. And there was a lot of that flying around, and that was disappointing. In fact, there was even at one point some fisticuffs.
No.
There was.
Oh no, there was.
An arrest
And some people escorted out of the convention
in handcuffs.
And
fisticuffs at the GOP.
Yes.
GOP convention. Oh yes.
We haven't had that in 9 years.
It was fun.
It wasn't the first time in the last decade
when everybody
either,
got
Tom.
really worked up. This was all over just the method of voting that they were so worked up over. I mean, it was a little bit. I mean, for those of us who've been around now, we understand it. They were probably newbies, and who knows? You know, they get worked up over the smallest things. But there were a lot of lessons learned in this convention.
Tom, I got a top 3 about this convention and a crop of the drop.
Oh my gosh, crop of the drop. I love it.
You hear the best 3 things about this convention to me. Huge turnout.
Yep.
I mean, compared to previous years recently, you know, this was over 1,200. Yep. That's good because we'd been sinking below 1,000. So that's number 1. Now, it wasn't nearly as much as the 2,600, but we never even get half of the people that get authorized actually come. So huge turnout. 2, because we were in chairs around tables, we were able to move in about, you know, without saying, excuse me, let me get out to the aisle. That's fantastic. Now, there's a downside to that because some people are out in the nosebleed section, you know, and I'll get to more on that. And then number 3 was our chairman. Nathan Dahm knocked it out of the park. Now, he was dealt a lot of crap, but he still made it tolerable. He treated everybody respectfully, and I give him 5 stars.
Yeah, he was like Gary Jones several years ago.
6 years ago,
who had to pull out and save a convention fraught with problems, with technical problems.
Except that this was twice as bad as 2015.
This not only had technical problems, it had a bunch of people who wanted to play every rule in the rule book.
There's a lot of things.
Now, you're telling me Gary Jones defaulted on a student loan?
Get a Q-tip, Tom.
So here's okay, all right. Look, the thing is, I wasn't there, which makes me most valuable to the audience.
Yeah,
I am more valuable to the audience right now than you guys because I am like them. I was not there.
Empathy.
And you. Honey, David said I had empathy. No, literally. So we got to get to this in a minute, but fisticuffs broke out, literally.
Yep. Well, yeah.
And then before we get to that, though, dirt was slung verbally. People were.
Oh, it was written. It was written.
Well, I mean, supporters of people, independent efforts. The candidates
independent of the candidates.
Like Trump supporters storming the Capitol, independent of Trump.
Yeah.
Storming.
Well, in one supporter who, really was supporting
just one.
me,
That's typically one.
He commented afterwards. He says, "I think I'm more disappointed than David Van is."
What did Al say?
Well, I do have more than one supporter. I did.
He got more than one vote.
I did get just a little over 40%. You know,
it was a very good. It was a very good showing.
Yeah. So,
showing.
but anyway, the worst. You want to hear my crop of the drop?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, number one.
Now, hold on. God dang it, Van. All right, if you're going to steal my bit and do the crop of the drop, you're going to have to do it right.
Okay,
crop of the drop. How many of you have? You got 5 of them?
God, I don't know. I think I got 8.
God dang it. The crop of the drop
right.
is the bottom the bottom of the 100. So crop of the drop, number 95.
Yeah.
Go.
So, the credentials stunk. They absolutely, and Bob Jack's done some great things, but he was handling these credentials and it was bad.
Keyword Bob Jack butt 96.
Yeah. All right. Botched voting. They were going to do this electronic voting stuff, and a lot of people were squawking and squealing about it. And sure enough, former state representative Mike Reynolds made a motion, say, "Hey, we didn't study this correctly. We haven't followed the right process to install it. Let's use paper ballots." He lost, and then they, went forward with it. And then the first vote came out, and over 100 people never got their email letting them in to cast a vote.
You'd get a more accurate reading from a seance led by Vanessa Hall Harper. 97, go!
And yeah, so there's that. And I've got to just finish it. All of a sudden, Mike Reynolds looks like the biggest hero because he said, "Folks, we do have paper ballots available if this electronic doesn't work."
Oh my God,
Yeah.
the old
Was
man.
there somebody that maybe they got that idea from?
Yeah.
Did they have planning to have that? Because they
actually Pam Pollard. Pam Pollard was the one that had the paper ballots.
This sounds like Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. Well, John says we could use paper.
Okay, here we go. Next one. Crappy sound, Tom, and I know you care about good sound. Over by Oldham, you know what it sounds like? It sounds like your average Charlie Brown Christmas show.
Can I? Okay.
That's what it sounds like.
Van, you finally calmed me down. Okay. Like I said last week, I've worked with Republicans, and the reason we keep getting our asses kicked is they don't even know the definition of the word stage, much less how to run sound.
Here's
you know
the
what?
problem.
I'm running sound for a ganja fest in Collinsville on 420, and it's going to be fantastic. But you can't get Republicans together to, like Larry Moe and Curly, figure out which way is up.
It's the real problem. It's the facility that was built with our money. Well, at least Oklahoma Cityans' money.
Yeah.
And the building sucked and didn't have speakers everywhere.
It's a concrete building.
100 years.
It's impossible to have good sound in there. You couldn't have saved that one.
Didn't say good sound. This just okay. Anyway, all right, whatever. I mean, there's no.
Yeah. But that's
all right, go ahead.
When you got a concrete ceiling, concrete floor.
So they picked the wrong place and didn't know how to run the sound. Either pick a different place, so they didn't pick a good stage. My point made perfectly, Oldham. My God, they don't know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Brand spanking new facility.
It's insane. Hey, Van.
They had these beautiful.
You're listening to David Van, the creator of SoonerPolitics.org. He just currently ran for state vice chair. Admirable attempt. And here he is talking once again with David Oldham, founder at constitutionalgrounds.com, and me, your verbal Viking and host, Tommy McKay. Go ahead, Van. Hit it.
So they had all these stainless steel drinking fountains all along one wall and the other wall across from it. And every one of them shut off to keep us healthy, don't you know? And they were selling water. You know what it was selling for? A shot glass would cost you 50 cents, okay? That much. In other words, a 16-ounce bottle, $4. $4, right?
$4?
Yes.
Wow.
And, you know, I'll bet you it's that stinking Oklahoma County Health Department that said, oh, we got to shut them up. If people could spread COVID on those drinking fountains. You know what's the healthiest way to avoid any virus? Get lots of liquids. Keep yourself flush.
And you know what? If you've been if you're a convention veteran like myself, you bring a cooler full. And that's what we had. We had a cooler full of all sorts
You
of
got
stuff.
to. They said no coolers, no containers.
God.
Oh,
That
because
was
I
in
was
the
a vendor.
rules.
I got in with all my stuff.
Yeah, because you
Yeah.
were hauling
Well,
boxes in.
Don't let the
Sneaking.
secret out, you water junkie. My God, you
All right.
gotta suck
So,
water down.
the venue was way too expensive. It cost us about double what we normally have to pay to cover all this crap for the worst convention I've ever had. Yes. Okay. So the violence, we've already talked about that.
No, you did not talk about the violence. You teased me. You said, oh my God, there were fisticuffs. I was like, no, there wasn't.
Yeah. Well,
you're like, yes, there were, Tom. You weren't there, you jerk.
Well, Oldham and I were over on the other
What I heard.
side. And as soon as they called for Sergeant at Arms, Oldham went running over there because, you know, he's a
Oh,
deputy.
no, he's got the nose hair. Boom, he's over there.
And anyway, so, yeah, and some woman with like 2-inch nails, she attacks this guy from Cimarron County out there where Kenny Bob lives.
How long were his nails?
I don't know. But according to one source, the woman's husband had to yank her up and throw her to the ground. Her own husband.
It's not the first time, I bet.
Yeah. And then sure enough, she ended up leaving in handcuffs. But
I bet you that's not the first time either.
Yeah. Oh, no. You should have seen the Ron Paul convention in 2012. An old guy beat on a young Ron Paul hippie kid, you know?
No.
Oh, a friend of mine. He's a friend still on Facebook.
I don't
got whomped on. Yep.
Yeah.
We had that discussion after all of this. It came up in conversation with friends around the room.
Okay.
So, and I should say there was a fabulous protest when our U.S. senators from Oklahoma stood up. Don't know if you noticed it. There was some booing and hissing, but mostly it was just they just stood in place, stood in protest against them.
Yeah. Wait. So what happened? Who protests what?
Oh, there were a lot of people around the room who stood when the senators came to speak. They stood in protest.
Which senator came to speak?
Both Inhofe and Langford. Langford gave the prayer, the opening prayer, which upset a lot of people because they don't think that he's very, very faithful when he's not doing his job.
God, Langford did the opening prayer. What was he wearing? What was he wearing?
A suit.
Tie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so a woman in front of me stood up, hands folded, head down, and turned 180. And she just turned her back to him.
No.
And I talked to her, as you know, that ain't Mecca up there.
Oh my God! So at the state GOP convention, people turn their back on Langfordus.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh my
God!
How come we haven't heard this? This is breaking news on 3D Politics. Oh my God!
No,
then Chairman McLean came to the podium and scolded everybody and said there'll be no booing or hissing, and we'll have the sergeant arms. And Charlie Potts was going around just threatening to throw people out if they booed or hissed any of these people.
I am amazed. Now, I have always been a fan of hissing, but I've been totally against booing. And I'm against the what they call the dark web, but the light brown web, I'm like, well, anyway.
So we've had this history of not finishing our convention, and lately we've been tabling our unfinished business to the next year. So guess what? This year we had 3 years of business to take care of, and you know what? We didn't get to most of it And so now what are we going to do next year? 4 years worth unfinished? It's a problem.
Yeah, it's actually in the rules. We have to.
Problem. This is where you reconcile the books and say scrap everything.
You know
and
what?
we clear it out to zero. There ain't no business. My wife has a rule. If you haven't opened that box in 1 year, it is trash.
Yeah, no.
It is ridiculous.
Okay, so my friend Larry Williamson tried to argue that all the unfinished business was supposed to go first this time. And then former state auditor, he's our former, state party chair, Gary Jones gets up to argue it. And then McLean comes by and I said, McLean, I went through this with you guys last year. We had taken parliamentary action. He says, yeah, I said, well, you need to, he says, no, Dave, you wrote that rule. You go to the microphone. And so finally, I didn't want to get in these little things. I'm a candidate running a race. You don't get in these, little tiffs. So finally I did. And I think I probably got some votes out of it. People were relieved. Dave saved us 4 hours of voting on all these old rules.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. So I hate to make a point, but I mean, and be serious at the same time. But when you say the magic words, what did he, when the rubber met the road, what did he ask you to do? Go to the what? Go to the, hold on, go to the what? The microphone, which is where?
On the floor.
No.
Like 4 of them. Okay.
No. Where's
the stage?
On the stage. That's right. The problem with the Republicans is they don't know how to communicate information from the microphone across the world, from the stage to the people. They cannot communicate from the microphone to the people, and that is the problem.
No, the rule was those delegates wishing to speak had to use the floor microphones. That was a rule.
Well, that's
McLean could not use the tool.
Well, McLean was no longer in charge. We had voted somebody else as chairman. Now, Nathan Dama had explained it to him last year, but he didn't. He was fuzzy on it. And so he started quoting Larry Williamson's version of it. And then I had to say no. And he, right from the podium, Mr. Van Rissegem, can you tell me where that is? And I pointed to him and he read it. And yep, sure enough.
I'm sure I'm wrong somehow. I know that somehow the rubber met the road when you had to talk to the crowd over the microphone, which is staging, which is the problem I made. So Oldham, fix it.
Well, actually, David did a fabulous job because he was not only exonerated but upheld. What he was explaining was exactly what had happened. Yeah. And Nathan said, "There it is. It is a parliamentary procedure." Yeah. And so we were able to move along. Yeah. The real thing to end this segment, because it's going long, is, is because I think we have something really important to talk about.
Coming up, to be clear for the audience, coming up at the top of the hour is Biden on the Second Amendment. No amendment is absolute, and we've already committed all of us here to repealing the 17th Amendment. So go ahead.
Well, and so I think David did a fabulous job because he explained it. He explained exactly what was going on. Yeah. He did a fabulous job because he explained it properly. Yeah. And that's what you said was that they don't stage it well. They don't get the message out. They get the message out, but we as Republicans get the wrong message out. We're either fighting the wrong problem or we're fighting the right problem the wrong way. And we're going to look at that in just a minute. But
I have something really important as an announcement.
No, go ahead.
Because Oldham, you talked about it. We got to deal with it next year because we didn't. No, actually, anything that we tabled, we are no longer obligated to pick up off the table.
Correct.
Correct. And they were doing that just as a courtesy, but no, we're under no obligation on anything except that which from the last convention, we didn't even do a table. We just ignored it as an item.
Well, I'm going to be working with people and we're going to work on the platform and getting some platform resolutions put through or propositions, whatever they're called. But we're gonna work on that and hopefully bypass all of that because that didn't get tabled.
And there is a possibility that there may be a special convention just for this.
That's possible.
Because now we're built up to 4 years, and it's getting to the impossible. Yeah. So
there's got to be something that happens within the party to understand the reality that you're bringing 1,200 people together at a place, and some of them are going to be interested in some of the stuff that's going on some of the time.
Yeah.
And there's going to be other people that are less interested in some of the stuff that's going on all the time.
Yeah.
Correct.
And you better have something that is entertaining that ties all the bull crap together.
Actually, you know what
This
was
is-
interesting was the entertainment factor was a little better this time. I mean, not that it was entertaining.
I wasn't there.
There were speakers the entire time, it seemed like. And there was a point in time where you could tell David McLean was biting
Yeah,
for time.
he was,
But,
yeah.
I mean, it was like, okay, this is going longer than it should. But and you could tell he was biting for time.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Well,
get
it was
up
his-
and
His
promote all of us
legacy was on the
vendors
line.
Okay.
because people didn't know we were even there.
Yeah.
Because we were on the
Okay.
wrong side of the room. We were on the far side of the room, and people shouldn't
Okay.
have had to come past us.
Bottom line, was the worst run convention I've ever been to, but the funnest one I've ever been to.
It's amazing. That is absolutely true. And the upside to this whole thing is I have seen and heard from a number of John Bennett supporters, and they are looking at this and they are working on this already. They're already getting
Yes.
people's ideas. What do we need to do different? What
Yes.
are your thoughts?
Mhm.
I've received several messages and calls and reach out
Right.
already on this. So
Yeah.
things are
And just want to
looking
say,
up.
John Bennett was chaplain of the Senate today, and then he was over at headquarters. He's got his transition team. They started at 3:00. Yesterday we talked. There's something I can't talk about, but we've got a lot of things happening. Shane Jemison's finally meeting with him. We had things didn't work out, but yeah. And I'm going to keep working with Shane Jemison. I really enjoy the young man. I really do. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, the fact that we've got so many people pouring in to try to fix the problem is a good thing. More people are involved in politics than I've ever known about in my lifetime. In my, I'm 38, and I'm amazed at how many people are involved. I heard about the JFK assassination from my brother, and nobody was involved in.
He was a lot older than you.
He was a lot older. I'm going by zygomatic age. It's kind of like dog years in reverse. But anyway, as we head into this, we're getting ready to take up the Second Amendment discussion. But I will say, it's good that we got all these people showing up. I think if you guys have never been in the restaurant, have you guys ever been in the restaurant business?
No.
Okay. Restaurant business, you've probably been a customer at a restaurant, and what you'll notice is they're supposed to bring out, like if you're being served properly, when you sit down at the table, you'll get water immediately before they know what else you want to drink. Then they'll bring you bread to start with. Then when you say, I'm going to have an entree, and it comes with an appetizer, which is a salad or something. Now, when you get your salad, they're not supposed to just rush your food out. Here's your steak. We can see you're only halfway done with your salad. And this is the problem with the GOP convention. So maybe you had speakers all the time. So what? Okay, you're like treating the people sitting there like foie gras. It's not just about force feeding them speakers. It's about allowing them to be entertained with what's going on. Okay, so what we do is we bring people in and we make sure they've got water for less than $4, and then we give them some chips and salsa or something for nothing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then we let them hang up for a minute. Okay, and then when we give them some speakers, we let her consume those speakers, and then we cut away for a minute, and when they're done consuming those speakers, then we bring out the entree. Okay, and it's heavier with more beef speakers. And then at the end, you bring out something that's a little more entertaining and lighthearted, like a band or a comedian or something. And then you have a dessert. Okay, and so this is the problem with the GOP. They do not know how to entertain people. Even if you've got 1,000 speakers, flog gras style. You guys are continuing to listen to Tommy McKay, your fine host, and Verbal Viking. You can find me at verbalviking.com or verbalviking@gmail.com. And of course, every week, creator of Sooner Politics, David Van, and David Oldham, the founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com. We're going to reset it, boys. So take yourself out. Ready?
All right.
Yeah, trust me.
The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, the principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. Tommy McKay, your fine host and Verbal Viking, right here every Monday for more than 2 years. And of course, backing me up right here in the foxhole, creator of Sooner Politics, David Van. An expert on Oklahoma state government, right there he is. And always looking up to David Oldham, our founder and scholar, constitutionalgrounds.com, educational speaker, and former state of Oklahoma elector at the United States Electoral College. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are again, and now we are on to the exciting federal issues. We've covered the city, we've covered the state, and now Oldham is going to give us some brilliant insight onto Biden on the Second Amendment. No amendment. You guys aren't chatting, are you?
Tom,
Okay. Yeah.
can I give him a quick, just a quick hint?
What happened?
This flag first appeared in the Boston Common. All right, there's your hint. Tell us what flag this is. All right, Oldham, it's all yours.
Google
Yeah,
it. while
hold
we're
on.
talking.
Hey, Van, you're not going to have to work about how we time this out. You have no idea how to work with me yet. I mean,
Hey,
when
no,
I'm-
we don't
when I'm
pre-plan the
doing-
show.
when I'm
We don't do
doing
the
a thing-
show before the show.
It's just
Not
like
much.
basic. It's basic. This is the problem with the GOP is they do not know how to put on a show.
you're right.
I'm tailoring out my deal. I'm setting the ball on the tee, and Van's like, you know what? I got something I'm going to add. Hey, guess what, guys? I got something I'm going to say. Okay,
Lucy.
Van, can you just let me say Biden on the Second Amendment? Yeah, I know you got a great little trivia thing that we never talked about, but I don't see anybody answering your effing question here. Nobody's answering. Okay, so thanks for wrecking my deal. Biden on the Second Amendment. No amendment is absolute, says Biden. Go Oldham.
All right. Well, we by now most people have heard about Joe Biden this week and his big gun control press conference where he managed actually to get through 35 minutes worth of, well, he got through about 20 minutes, about 15 minutes of his own speaking without too much trouble. But I did want to focus us in on what Tom wanted to talk about. And so I'm going to play a video here and we'll bring it up and go full screen with this.
Excellent.
There we go. And let's listen to Biden here for about 30 seconds.
Now, hold on. You got to make sure to click that little box. There's a little box that says prioritize
I
Tom.
it up.
I think the box says prioritize Tom and whatever he says, especially if you're sharing Tom's.
That share sound. There we go. Okay, here we go.
There's another box that says kiss Tom's ring.
Tells Tom to shove it. Lady Thugs just tell Tom to shove it.
All right, here we go.
All right.
Why is it still not playing?
It's muted.
Oh, is that what it was?
The video itself is muted. Go to the
Okay,
video
hang on.
and
Let me
click
go back.
unmute.
This is
No,
like
you're right.
glitch. This is like the glitch in the Matrix when that cat comes by.
Hit play and then unmute it.
There you go. There you
All right, there we go. Oh, there. Can you guys see what I'm seeing?
Nope,
Almost.
you haven't shared it.
Hang on. All right, here we go.
You were
Joy.
almost perfect the
I
first
see.
time.
I see what's right
Joy.
behind you.
I got it. All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Nothing I'm about to recommend in any way impinges on the Second Amendment. They're phony arguments suggesting that these are Second Amendment rights at stake from what we're talking about. But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. We call it freedom of speech. From the very beginning, you couldn't own any weapon you wanted to own. From the very beginning the Second Amendment existed, certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. So the idea is just bizarre to suggest that some of the things we're recommending are contrary to the Constitution.
Okay, let's talk.
All right, so let's talk about what he's trying to get across here. So
He's right.
Well, no, he's actually he's right on the one hand, he's not on the other.
I'll tell you one thing he's right on, Oldham. I yell crowd at fire all the time. Go ahead.
No, I will tell you a different context when you're done on how he is right.
All right, Oldham.
Well,
Hit it.
he's right that you can't yell fire in a crowded theater.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that.
But insofar as that's as far as his correctness goes. Okay.
Okay.
That you couldn't own any weapon you wanted from the get-go is not true. Because remember, the Second Amendment says that the right to keep and bear arms, that's arms,
Right.
whatever the arms, shall not be infringed. The thing is that the arms are not limited, and your right to keep and bear them are not limited. That's why you see tanks outside of gun stores and Army Navy surplus stores and things like that, because we can own those. We can own military jets and all sorts of things. So the thing, but there's a bigger problem here.
Okay, before you move on, I kept my mouth shut as long as I could.
Okay.
People who cannot own weapons have in the past historically been defined as slaves. And so we have to transverse the text of the document that we're supporting, the Constitution, past slavery, because slaves were not allowed to own firearms. Am I correct or am I incorrect?
Well, that would be correct, but the other people who are legitimate, remember, with the abolishing of slavery, now all are free people, so all are entitled.
Which is what year?
Except for felons. Okay.
Oldham, if I could, the only thing that he said that is correct is that no amendment is absolute. And I'll tell you by context for this, because no constitution is absolute, because conquest is absolute. In order to have conquest, you need arms. And that's why this is worth going to the mattresses for.
Absolutely. Here's the problem is, even that statement isn't correct. Now, I mean, in this sense, now,
which
I guess
statement? I was too busy cackling at the mattress company.
Here's the thing, that we have absolute right to those guns. We don't have the right to misuse those guns against our neighbors. So in that sense, now mind you, the right is to keep and bear. The right is not to misuse.
Right.
So we have absolute right. Now remember, he goes into what he wants to do, and I'm going to play you a couple minutes of him saying what he wants. Well, no, actually, I'm not going to do that.
I do. I want you to. Oh no, it's plenty. This is our time in history.
Well,
but before you do, something we're cruising past is the word that was quoted from the article here. President Biden said that something about gun control, said no amendment is absolute. He is recommending impinges. And remember that Congress shall make no law that impinges, right?
Well,
Infringes.
infringes.
But he said impinges.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
This is my point. Is this is the snake oil salesman saying the word impinge. So Congress should have said, Congress shall make no law that impinges or rhymes with infringes. I mean,
you're absolutely right, Tom.
He's a
but more so, and this is why you have me here, is because and this is what I was pointing out to people all weekend long. Because everybody thinks about the Second Amendment. That is all Joe Biden ever mentioned was Second Amendment, Second Amendment, Second Amendment. But in reality, what he proposes not only violates the Second Amendment, and it does, even though he lies and says it doesn't. It violates your Fourth and your Fifth Amendment rights.
And
it
how?
turns you into a slave, which violates your 13th Amendment rights. It violates the 14th and the 15th Amendments. But the real issue here is that, and let's just cover what some of those things are. The Fourth Amendment says we are to be secure in our persons, papers, houses, and effects. Are you secure in carrying a gun right now, or are you afraid you're going to be Rick Hubbard or Tim Harper and get swatted just because you have a gun slung across your back?
Right.
Are you entitled to your liberty and to not be deprived outside of due process of law? But that's the Fifth Amendment and the 14th Amendment, and that is exactly what this does. Is he is going to declare you don't have the right, and he's going to do it from on high with his pen, his Obama pen, and he's going to declare this, and there's no due process. That's what's really going on.
Yeah, but Oldham, don't you agree? A constitution is only prevalent to those willing to live under it. To everybody else, the conquest by violent force is really the ultimate. If you don't follow the Constitution, you face force.
It's a proper distinction. People who do not follow law follow force.
Well, true. We should be exercising force against those who do not follow the Constitution, because they are criminals and deserving of the wrath of the rest of us.
And that is the reason. That is the reason why this is non-negotiable.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. This is non-negotiable because we have already said this is our law.
Yes.
Until it is properly changed, which means amending the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
And I was on a conference call this afternoon about H.R. 1, which violates the Constitution for voting rights, federalizes the voting rules. You can't do that without amending Article 1 and Article 2. We've talked about that before. The thing is, the same thing here. It is complete and utter lawlessness from the Rose Garden, and that's what we've got. Let's play just exactly what he wants to do. He said this. Okay, good.
We're not going to give up. We have an opportunity to fulfill the first responsibility of government, to keep our people safe. And in the process, we can show the world and show ourselves that democracy works, that we can come together and get big things done. When I look around and see such brave survivors sitting out here in the Rose Garden, public servants who devoted their lives to dealing with this, advocates who feel strongly and are...
But let's talk.
God, I thought I was a comedian. This guy is hilarious. Democracy? I wish I would have come with that. American democracy. Everything starts with an M. Anyway.
Well, here's the problem, is that he actually thinks that he has the right and ability to where's my list? Here. He has the right to ban or stop the proliferation, he said, of ghost guns. In other words, guns that the government doesn't know anything about. Because right now, remember, they have in statutes, illegal statutes, that every gun has to have a social security number. A
Serial number.
Americans.
Same thing.
Hold on,
It's a
Americans
serial
born with guns. Right there, you're listening to David Oldham, your fine constitutional expert from constitutionalgrounds.com. Joining him is creator of SoonerPolitics.org and me, your verbal Viking, Tommy McKay. Go on, David Oldham, waxing eloquent about gun rights.
Yeah, Biden also wants to eliminate stabilizing braces on handguns. In other words, shoulder stocks. He doesn't like that because it stabilizes the gun and makes it more accurate. And somebody recently had a pistol that had a brace, and so therefore,
well, he wants you to shoot more innocent bystanders, don't you know?
Well, I mean, if it didn't have the brace, you could actually wield it a little more effectively, even.
I actually scanned the story and tried to do homework before this to be ready for you, Oldham.
Whoa.
And when me doing homework, honey, Ben said I did homework. More accurate. I circled that thing. Biden has a problem with guns being accurate. So should we outlaw sights?
Well,
let's outlaw sights.
Well, hang on.
Scopes. And in fact, you should be blind. Let's get Dan Broso to talk about being blindfolded while shooting.
This is how stupid.
Right?
Hang on, because this is the punchline. He thinks that a pistol, which he ultimately says it's like a short-barreled rifle with the stabilizing brace.
It is. In the cartoons, it is.
Okay, he says it is more accurate than a rifle.
Yeah.
More accurate. I didn't bother to pull it out. But he said it's more accurate than a rifle. It's like a short-barreled rifle.
It is.
Okay.
Hold up. Handgun.
If I could stop here, I just listened to him say a quote that last night, my days and nights, I slept too long yesterday afternoon.
No.
So I was in the middle of the night watching these World War II documentaries. And I swear I'm watching the subtitles and Adolf Hitler saying, and we can come together and unite to get big things done. It's just what he said. The guy is still stealing other people's
Don't they?
Remember.
Gun control too, yeah.
Remember that democracy just means mob rule. It's not rule of law. It's mob rule.
Right.
God, you are so right. You resonated in my bell right there, because that's the problem with GOP. They keep talking about what's right and what's wrong. And our opponent doesn't give a damn what's right or wrong. All they care about is mob rule.
Right.
So that's why public opinion, we've got to get it on our side. We got to learn how to put on a party and get a band there and keep these people interested. Right. This is insane.
And then he wants to, and not only that, but with the whole ghost gun things and the shoulder stocks and the upgrading and the changing of your weapon. That should require, he says, a $200 fee and personal ID information to be registered in order to be allowed to then have those items on your gun. Now we're going to get into red flag here in a second, but I want you to remember just who and what Joe Biden is, and his secretary, Bimbo, what's her name, said just exactly what he was all about. So let's listen to her speak.
She's a woman.
As a United States Senator, Joe Biden took on the gun lobby not once but twice, and he won. In 1993, he worked to pass the Brady Handgun Violation Prevention Act. This law established a background check system and has kept more than 3 million firearms out of the hands of dangerous people. A year later, he worked to pass another law to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines for 10 years. And as vice president, Joe Biden led the Obama-Biden administration's efforts to reduce gun violence. In fact, we were just reminiscing that he and I talked back then.
Off air.
All right, enough of her.
She was talking off air.
Well, here's the thing, is that she pointed out that he was part of the whole Brady bill, which has you have to go through a background check in order to exercise your right. It forces you to it prohibits handguns until you have your license, until you are properly registered, and then and only then can you get your gun and be entitled to your own property. So there we have Joe Biden and who and what he is. He's been going, as she said, since '93. That's 30 years of this violation of our rights. It goes on though, because he wants that $200 fee, and he wants it put onto the kits you can buy where you don't have a serial number, and he wants your personal identification number. He wants a background check on the kit guns. He wants a background check on parts. He wants a background check on all transactions, even private
So
transactions.
I got a question. When an individual orders a kit and puts it together, what group will we hold responsible for?
Yeah.
Well, that's the point, is they want to try to force the manufacturer to put that on there so they can hold them responsible.
Let Van.
Well, keep in mind that with 3D printing just continuing on, almost the entire gun can be made at home out of just stock plastic, right? You might want to have a metal firing chamber, but that's about all you need with the special plastics.
Well, if you get the right printer, you can even have that made.
That's true. But here's what I want to echo. Folks, if you've ever listened to Oldham for any period of time, you'll learn this basic tenet. If it's a license, then it isn't a right. Constitutional rights do not require licensing, paying permits, paying fees. You don't buy your constitutional rights. You don't get them given to you out of the favor and goodness of the government first putting you through an anal exam where you got to prove that you deserve the right rather than them proving you don't deserve it.
Correct.
If braces make...
Do I get an A, Oldham?
You do. You do. Remember, you don't buy them. You inherit them. They're yours. They're ours by inheritance.
Dan, that was a sweet swing right there. That was beautiful stuff. It didn't interrupt me, and I just loved it. Okay. But Biden talks about the braces that make guns more accurate. So accurate guns are bad.
Correct.
So I said, why not ban sights and why not ban rifling, right? Because rifling...
Go back to muskets.
Increases accuracy. Can't have that.
So,
yep.
So if we could ban... Because really, if you keep going back to what is the derivative... What makes the projectile move? Is it called explosive? Like there's some explosion, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so is that physics?
That's what's called a firearm. Yeah.
But I'm saying the explosion itself comes. It's just the causation of the explosion.
Yeah.
Comes from
gunpowder.
The physics, right?
Reaction.
It's physics. Is it physics? Right. So can we ban physics?
Yeah.
No, you can't ban chemistry or physics.
This is the problem. You know, in the 1750s, I think it was the French banned. This is why I continue to think. Of course, I'm a conspiratorialist, right? To ask my wife, honey, David said I'm a conspiratorialist. They controlled corn because corn meal can. The powder from corn, like any other powder substance, can be used to in a cannon. So in 1750s, I think it was the first. I read this. I don't have the source, but they controlled the production of corn because they didn't want them making gun powder.
Tom, have you not ever seen grain elevators explode just
They
from the
boom.
wheat dust?
Correct.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is when they control, and remember when the English controlled India
Yeah.
and their salt production, right?
Yeah.
Was that right? Okay,
Yeah.
salt was a controlled substance.
Yeah, and my boys could tell you about Mentos in a 2-liter bottle of Coke. I mean, there you go. There's all kinds of ways to cause an explosion.
See how polite I am? Van sets up that joke.
I'm on a roll tonight. You know it, Tom.
Mentos and the.
I just got an A in my midterm from Oldham.
I'm gonna do a line of Mentos and then down a Coke. You know.
Oh.
I
ate the whole thing.
Like,
Well, we
I'm
do,
gonna call
Mamma
Nathan
mia,
Dawn.
that's the spicy meatball.
well, with all the hilarity, we do have to get to red flag because he wants to
yes.
put red flag in there.
Okay, red flag. You said the magic word.
Now,
What
I did not pull out the what he said about the red flag.
Okay, but you
Well,
just said the
but-
magic word
but
about
what-
red flags. And what I'm asking you, gentlemen, is isn't it true with the National Red Flag Police, literally the National Police, wouldn't we indeed be able to turn Dylan Goforth in
Yes.
to have him searched by the National Police? Because he's literally saying that, and this is on, there it is. I would literally kill a person, any person, he says, just name them, to be able to watch a new movie. He tells you why he would murder someone. And then everybody that I argued with says, can't you tell a joke, you stupid comedian? And then I say, but look at there. Dylan Goforth says he's not joking. Dylan Goforth is not joking. He said on August 14th of 2020, he would murder people. Joe effing Biden, what will you do to save us?
Hey,
We're
Oldham,
gonna
did he tell
murder.
you he was going to bring that up, or did
Okay,
he just
okay.
get you blindsided?
No.
Dylan
but-
Goforth
but-
calls for a national police, and then there he is threatening everyone. That's a red flag if I ever saw it, okay?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
All right, I'm done. I think I'm done.
We're Oldham. We're both on a roll in Oldham.
I've been waiting all night for Oldham.
And you blindsided him, and you
I
talk about
didn't
me.
No, he's
No.
absolutely no. Tom
I
is
didn't.
absolutely correct.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
I know.
Oldham.
Because-
I'll run the
because-
show. You bring me the GOP. Damn.
Well, and mind you, there's an ancient Israeli proverb that says, how does it go?
Prophet says.
It says, like a madman who throws firebrands and arrows in death is the man who deceives his neighbor and says, I was only joking.
Oh, yes.
And so the thing is that's what you've got with Goforth, but it will quickly end up, and words are not crimes. And he could rightly argue that he was only joking, and even though he says he's not joking, he wasn't really going to.
He said he wasn't joking.
Even though he's not joking, he really means it, but he's not really going to carry it
He
out.
said both. He's taking up both positions at the same
I
time.
know. Oh, exactly.
Talking out of both sides of his mouth.
But
And if I may say just real quickly, if you scroll down to the reality of the situation, what you find out here is that here is Dylan Goforth later. That is on February 11th when the roads are bad. A person who says he's illuminating journalism, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And he says, oh, yeah, here is Dylan Goforth saying the city of Tulsa, that would be G.T. Bynum, has the streets in such good shape. What a relief. But one of his fans, Quinn Field, has no idea if he's serious or not. Is this real or sarcasm? I need to know because my fucking life depends on it, right? And so what the problem problem here is that Dylan Goforth is out on a limb pretending shit. And then he says, oh, yeah. But one guy really is worried about it. And so Dylan Goforth is not only threatening murder, but he's making it more dangerous for people traveling the roads. My God, what the hell? Okay, can anybody... You're listening to Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking, here on 3D Politics every week on Monday nights at 7 to etc. with David Van and David Oldham, who both take up their own independent position, entirely different than Tommy McKay. And you know what? We're coming up to the big break. We've got a lot of stuff more to handle in the final half hour.
Oh, I hope not.
Oh, no. I've been waiting all night for you.
Needs to pee.
No. Are you kidding me? We're just at the second half hour, and we're coming in. We're talking about Biden on the second.
End of the third half hour.
Yeah, you and your numbers. Oh, you're racist. And so I just throw that. Now I throw that out, like it's just any. Not anymore. It's what they say. Stay tuned for your station identification. Nobody listens here except for anybody who really matters. And it's me and David's, both of them, on 3D Politics every Monday night. And it starts like this. Oh, yeah, here we are again. Can you believe it? Every Monday night for more than 2 years. Independent voice, the finder of fact, the verifier of truth, and promoter of the arts. Here we are. 3D Politics. All the time, every Monday. Let me be like Joe Biden. Every Monday. Let me say it again. Every Monday. The thing. I'm here. I'm me. I have a name.
The thing.
That thing. Yeah, you know that thing, Van. And Van is here. He's got a thing. He does a thing. My God, Van has a thing. It's something. It's a thing. And then there's Oldham. He does a whole nother thing. And by God,
a real thing.
He does. Van, you're really coming through for me in my dementia. God, yes. Van does a thing. I do a thing. I barely do. Just that once, but never again. And that thing is, and I did a thing. My God, I did a thing, and it was less. But then Van did a thing more, and Oldham was on to a thing. And by God, there we were. And so Oldham pointed out, Biden recognizes that people have not always had weapons, and those people don't get one are called slaves. Go ahead, Oldham.
Well, you said they were slaves.
Yeah.
I think he was probably talking about felons.
Yeah.
But remember that the very legislation he worked so hard to help pass doesn't talk just about felons. It's about people we might be a little bit afraid of. I mean, now we're talking red flag. We're talking no-fly list to be included. So if you can get yourself on the no-fly list, there's no due process on that. They're going to start banning you just for that. Dylan Goforth, as you pointed out, and sadly, he often is arguing for all the things that we're saying is bad news. He's arguing for those, and he could be the first one caught up in it.
Yeah.
Right.
And deservedly so, if that's what he's going to do. He better be joining us, because otherwise he's in deep doo-doo.
Yeah,
But,
Van.
I got an important distinction on that.
Okay, Van.
All you have to say, take out the word kill anybody and say the president. Would it make a difference in how we treat? Yes, it would. But should it?
No. Well, it will. Because it would get you arrested quicker. But Biden's entire point is he's going to do it down to the community level. He's going to take guns from anybody and everybody they think is danger to themselves or others.
Yeah. Well, I was chasing that squirrel outside.
That means all
I liked it, Van.
That's ever been a psychologist, anybody who has ever had a problem, anybody who's called a hotline, anybody who's called the Social Security Department, with a problem, whatever, it's going to get you caught up in this. There will be no freedom of speech. There will be nothing is safe anymore. You cannot be secure. You cannot.
In California, it's already that way.
It's already happening, and he's praising these people. Remember, he's got the former California Attorney General who was behind a lot of this stuff.
She enforced it.
And introducing him, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And should some dipstick like Dylan Goforth be subject to the national police on a red flag gun law when he made some stupid quote unquote joke? I'm going to kill somebody. What an idiot. And do I think that some dipshit should be held accountable by a national police for a joke he thought he was making when I'm a professional comedian and I can see it's not a joke, right? I don't do news.
Oldham, if I could, as an amateur, sometimes the student can speak truth more plainly than the teacher. And I say, again, anything you have to get permission for the government for, you have given it up as a right. If it used to be their right.
Well, I would say I would phrase that a little differently.
Okay. Well, see, I'm an amateur.
Is that if you have to ask permission, they have violated your rights. And they have subjected you to their tyranny. We have to end the subjection. We have to end the tyranny. That's what we have to do. We have to get it through our heads. Now, most of the people out there think that the tyranny is actually lawful, is actually part of freedom. It's just, the way things are.
It's law and order, don't you know?
Government.
Law and order.
It's law and order. Oh, and that's big on the right.
For safety.
Exactly. They will say law and order. But
I would feel safer if we did it this way.
You not only got to be safe, you got to feel safe.
That's right.
Failing. And here's the thing. It's actually lawlessness.
Yes.
Because and it doesn't matter whether it's coming from the right or the left. And the right, once it's written down in statute, they're going to be the first ones to say, "Oh no, you've got to obey it. You've got to obey it." And the churches are going to preach, "You got to obey it. It's a law." But wait a minute, we have two levels of law. We have the Constitution, and then we have laws that are made in pursuance thereof.
Right.
And those are of equal weight.
Right.
But then we have what's all the rest, the garbage that should be on the ash heap that is not constitutional.
Right.
And that's not law, even though it's all written down in the same book.
And what's even more absolute than the Constitution is the power of violent force. If people will not live under a Constitution, then you denigrate to whoever has the biggest guns and the most of them.
So the question for our watchers is, are you going to allow the lawless to use the force, or are you going to be willing to step up and force law and order? And remember, liberty is the law, so we should all want that. We really should.
Yeah.
So, what do you know, Oldham, about this David Chipman? He has been announced as the director of the AFT, right?
Oh, the ATF?
Oh, the ATF. Yeah. Well,
I know nothing about him, and I couldn't care less.
Biden called it. Biden mispronounced Biden.
Did he call it the ATF?
He called it the ATF.
And Oldham, let's remind people, nobody shall be deprived of their liberty without due process of law. That means the burden is on the government to prove that you are deemed to forfeit a right. Now, that would have to take some evidence and proof. You don't have to prove you're sane. They have to prove you're Tom. Okay, I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm in a crazy mood
close.
tonight.
That's close. That's the most accurate thing you've said tonight, man.
And then when you look at so many of the things, I mean, we've talked about it ad infinitum about
that thing.
No, after the forfeiture, where your car's on trial.
Yeah.
And you can lose your car because your car can't prove its legitimacy. And that you have to somehow prove you didn't do what they accuse you of, otherwise you're guilty. That's backwards. You are to be not deprived until they can prove you have violated your liberty and in harm of someone else. somehow.
So,
If
so
they haven't
tell
done
me,
that, then you're supposed to remain free.
tell me, Van. The Biden administration. This is from this Fox News story. The Biden administration is expected to throw its weight behind gun control proposals. My question isn't it true by definition gun control proposals infringe on the rights to keep and bear arms? I mean,
Yeah.
isn't like axiomatic?
Yeah.
I mean,
You
I'm
can't
just
control
thrilled.
guns. You
I'm
can control
thrilled
the
that they-
people who use a gun.
They haven't learned anything from Bill Clinton's biggest mistake. He went after guns, assault weapons, and he lost for the first time in 52 years. He lost the House of Congress, of the House of Representatives.
Yep.
That's how badly it cost them, and they lost the Senate. It was massive earthquake, and it's because they went after guns. So they're falling right for it again. Thank you very much.
So from this Fox News story, and this is so ridiculous as they're quoting Vice President Harris. She said a thing here, and I've got a question mark because it's either a typo, which I think I found another one too, but this is from Fox News. I quote, "I've seen with my own 2 lives what a bullet can do to the human body," which means as a pussycat, she's got 7 lives left.
There you go.
I mean,
I
I've
listened
seen
to-
with
I
my
listened to
own
the-
2 lives. What did she say?
I listened. She said 2 eyes.
2 eyes. It must be a typo.
Typo. The vast majority of everything was this emotional appeal as to why we should ignore the Constitution and the law of the land to enact and put forth these things that he's talking about. That was the entirety of their press conference.
So the idea that Kamala Harris is pushing is a maternalistic idea of safety over freedom, as opposed to a paternalistic idea as freedom over safety, that we will prevail over the things that scare us, as opposed to a mother's instinct is let's all crawl back in the cave and wait for dad to fight the bear. And the wage gap doesn't exist. I just thought I'd throw that in, but really, so by definition, you do agree that any proposals, in Congress for gun control are literally restricting the rights to keep and bear.
Oh, absolutely. They're infringing that, and they're violating your liberty. They're depriving you of your liberty. They're depriving you of your property. They're depriving you of your security, your ability to feel safe.
I know
With the feelings.
I know that my bladder feels like it can hold out longer than yours. What about the repeal of a law? Biden says he wants to repeal a law that prevents gun manufacturers from being sued for crimes people commit with guns. So it's like, if I wreck my car, I'm going to sue Ford because I would never wreck my Toyota. I'd steal a Ford and wreck it.
Well, actually, he wants all gun manufacturers sued, and he wants them sued into oblivion. That's what he wants.
Gets me back to my issue when I went to Lowe's and I said to the young man, cut the board in half. And we knew we were dealing with a moron because he said, how long is it? And I wanted to say 1,000,000 miles. Now how are you going to cut it in half? Right? Because he didn't understand that half is not a function of how long. It's a function. It's not a function. Half is defined by how long, not the other way around.
He needs to find the full length and divide by 2.
So
here's the
I
thing
can't sue. I cannot, if I cannot hold that young man responsible for cutting the board inaccurately, like I pointed out on a previous show, then I will have to hold the entire. If you cannot hold an individual accountable, then you must you must raise entire institutions to the ground.
Well,
Okay.
yes, but also remember, he wants to hold the perpetrator actually accountable, but then he also wants to hold the saw maker, the tool maker accountable as well. Because if the guy didn't have that tool, he
So
wouldn't have done it wrong.
Craftsman will go to hell in a lawsuit if I stab someone to death with a Phillips head screwdriver. I mean, this is absolute insanity. Okay, and also parents should be held responsible for any human that does any damage to any other human, and we'll imprison all parents then also, because in fact mainly women, because they have the uterus that created the people. You're listening to the Verbal Viking, unafraid to say anything right here, and if you got a problem with it, just email me at verbalviking@gmail.com. So get after it. You're also listening to David Van, not so much because Tom's just been talking. David Van, creator of SoonerPolitics.org. David Older, founder of Foundum. How's that? David Oldham, founder of Scholar and Scholar. Listen, I'm so ticked off. You should have never pushed me this long. David Oldham, founder and scholar of Constitutional Grounds. Go, Van.
I've got the answer to the riddle tonight, folks. Here it is.
Here it is.
It is called The Rebellious Stripes of the Sons of Liberty.
Highlight it, my friend.
Liberty flag. All right. And it actually did fly in the Boston Commons. Originally, they had a protest that met under a tree. And that was where they always knew to go, to the Liberty Tree. See what the British do? They cut down the tree. So instead, they put up a flagpole and they used this flag. And it's called the Sons of Liberty flag. And it actually came into existence, or as a symbol, a good 11 years before the Declaration of Independence. So that is the answer, my friends. The Sons of Liberty flag, or the Rebellious Stripes. Now, it started out with 9 stripes, but when they organized further to more colonies, eventually it was 13, and it was red and white. So now you see the origins of the flag that eventually Washington and others said, let's make this Old Glory.
And let's also note that this goes back over a decade before the actual official independence was declared, or about a decade.
Yeah.
So,
Rick Hubbard is also pertinent again in the news because his situation is going forward. And remember when we interviewed him, one of the comments I remember when we interviewed him, one of my comments was that they didn't like what Richard Hubbard was doing because it operated in their area of symbolism. Yeah. Symbolism over substance. And David Van's historical recollection here really shows us the value. See how valuable the symbolism is? The flag is still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It literally is a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, on that Rick Hubbard thing, last week was kind of a minor earthquake in Broken Arrow at the city council. And David and his wife and other their friends worked really hard, the Broken Arrow Patriots, and got some change. And as a result of this, Rick Hubbard could get some benefits if we can call in some political favors and get a resolution from the new city council, Broken Arrow, telling the cops, give Rick Hubbard his guns back.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's a use of force of government against one single individual.
And this whole thing was about politics and imagery. And how dare that man think he has rights?
Yep.
So, by the way, I have another court update for you. I'm sorry, were you done? Go ahead.
Just to tag on that, because we spoke about cities, but we didn't really touch on the important elections that happened.
Yeah.
We had 3 cities in the Tulsa area, metro area. We had Claremore, Broken Arrow, and Jenks.
Yeah. All
elected a now majority of more freedom-loving counselors to their city councils. So all politics is local. People have gotten together locally. They help bringing these people in. And so we're looking forward to actually some good things happening surrounding Tulsa. It's amazing that all of a sudden, as soon as that happened, the Tulsa mask mandate was allowed to expire.
Yeah.
Gee, go
Yes.
figure.
I think so. I think
no,
there's something-
it's like
Yeah.
now there's pressure. You can't just have the
Yeah.
good old boy network just going
right.
along. So now it's starting to all fall apart because freedom has been injected into the
And but you know, like we started the show, GT Bynum, he wants to govern by zip code, and he tries to pretend a correlation. He tries to pretend a correlation, or he tries to pretend a causation when he could draw a correlation. And he talks about zip codes. He wants to govern by zip code and draw statistical analysis. Zip codes are not monolithic human demographics. We should not encourage governance by zip code. Government driven by mathematical extrapolation of data creates statistical composite anomalies that do not exist in reality, like the wage gap and the autobiographical girlfriend of Obama. Okay.
Well, and remember, without socialized medicine, without socialism, none of this stuff exists. It's easy. It's easy to fix.
Yep.
In the private sector.
So, you guys remember the famous graffiti at the state Democrat headquarters nearly 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago? And Pam Pollard down there in tears, you know, feeling so sorry, all this hate crime and this neo-Nazi, you know, and then we find out that it's some woman from Norman. And then we find out that she did it again.
Yes.
And then we find out that she's got some serious mental instability. Now, I'm not even going to mention her name because they did not prosecute. Ultimately, that woman has spent a lot of time in a mental institution because she has some serious challenges. So was she in her right mind? Ultimately, the prosecutor said, you know what? She needs help. She needs to be accountable, and she needs to stay accountable for a while so that society is safe. But ultimately, they did not treat her as though this is deliberate, willful criminal intent. This is a deranged mind. So that's how that one turned out. So there you go. There's another court update. Nothing happened.
No, I'm just as polite as I can be by leaving that. I'm not even going to touch that. Yeah, there she is. You know, I usually think, as a nut job myself, I usually think I can see him coming. You know, I live in the deep end. I can usually see him swimming by.
You know what Hank Hill says, Tom?
No.
He says, a lot of people have a problem with this body piercing. He says, I actually appreciate it. It gives me an early warning when I'm about to walk up to someone who isn't quite right. But listen, this young woman is living in a hell that is worse than any prison in Oklahoma. I know the kind of hell these people suffer, and when they can't get help, when the medicines don't work, and they're still looking for their miracle, I just have some compassion. You still need to keep society safe, but you don't have to do it through a criminal penal system. There are other ways to keep her safe and keep society safe.
Well,
pray for her miracle.
It is, as we've done with medical science and almost every other industry.
Yeah.
We move forward in our understanding, and in the criminal industry, criminal science, we understand with scientific, better, more accurate scientific understanding that people who get in trouble with the law are not always just simple like criminals trying to steal a Snickers bar. And what we're finding out really especially working with you, Van, over the last couple of years, primarily 90% of what the Tulsa police deal with is mental issues. It's mental health issues almost always.
Yeah, a third of the jail inmates are actually accepting medical psychiatric treatments. A third at the Tulsa jail.
No.
Yeah. And by the way, I've got a teaser. Saturday for me wasn't all about, my election stuff. I actually was working with some legislators to fine tune some things. I got with Kathy Costello on it, and she advised and things. We're probably going to have a pretty significant interim study this summer on some mental health issues that could bring some breakthrough. And I got a lot of it done Saturday because I had half the legislature there. So good news. And I have a lot of Democrats working with me on it already. So,
well, there's no reason to damn yourself. If if there's a gun violence, you just check me on this on the way out. If there is a gun violence epidemic in America, then the fault lies in the hands of the federally funded national public school system.
Yeah.
60 years of Big Ed's failure to create the reasonable community they promised. Indoctrination by the states creates animalistic barbarians. Okay? Literally, so argue if you will. Oh, there's no gun problem. Okay, if there is, it's because Woodrow Wilson's a damn racist liar. Okay, and I didn't even get a chance to say 2 weeks in a row the Suez Canal was built by slaves. The Suez Canal, the thing, people. Let me say it again. The Suez Canal was built by slave labor, so shut her down. But I mean, the problem is Woodrow Wilson lied to us. He said if we just let the national education system teach everybody, we'll get a more educated, more reasonable community. And what we have is guns and violence and a crisis, more of the fear porn. He said we got a mental health crisis and a gun crisis. My God, it's crisis everywhere. Yeah. And if you watch the weather here locally, I mean, there's always a death threat in the weather center. Mm-hmm. If the wind's blowing, it's a fire alert. And if it's not blowing, my God, we're going to die from ozone. We just know for sure we're all going to die. Yeah. I mean, that's how we go. That's how it works.
So I got to say, the number one.
I'm afraid that this conversation is just going to keep going.
Bit. No, okay, I'm done.
The number one indicator of shootings and violence in the urban setting is how Democrat is their city council. And that, my friends, is true.
Am I wrong?
It's true.
Have the sudden shootings gone up since Biden? Is that just
me? Gotta pee.
Yeah. All right. So, guys, what else before we get out of here? Anything else? All right, you guys. You've been listening once again to the fantastic 3D Politics with me, your fantastic verbal Viking, comedian, political humorist, father of 5, former Tulsa mayoral candidate Tommy McKay. Catch me at verbalviking.com. You can always email me, verbalviking@gmail.com. And, of course, David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.com, political leader, educational speaker, always here every Monday night. And David Vann, the man with the plan, creator of SoonerPolitics.org. He's got his thumb on all things state and all things oriented political here that affects you. So we're going to let you guys go out one at a time. There goes Vann. There goes Oldham. There he goes. I appreciate it. And here I go. Let's see if I really disappear this time. It never seems to work.
Hello, Tom. Politics. You're still there, Tom.
Why is that? All right, we're gone. Thank you, gentlemen.